Hey everybody! Hi, it's the crafting author. All right, we left off with the concert. The all Westmans all went to the winter concert, and Stella was pretty peeved. Then they went out to dinner. They went to dinner at Kara's house and learned a lot about history, the house that Kara lives in. Who used to live there, who built it, a lot about the family, almost to the point where she felt like she knew the family. All right, we are going to start on episode 25, and it is called Blizzard. After the winter break was over, their school break did not really end. The snow kept falling nonstop. The forecast was grim. 2 weeks went by. The children were supposed to return to school on January 4th. It's now January 18th. Stella looked out the window. She did not think that school was going to be in session tomorrow either. The snow and ice took out a lot of power lines. The weight caused some of the power line towers to bend down to the ground. Stella was so thankful for their new generator. They had heat, water, the freezers, and the refrigerator worked. Stella would have to unplug something occasionally to use the outlet on the generator for something else. They also had extension cords running throughout the house, but it was a small price to pay. Stella thought about some of her neighbors that were going without heat. The community was working hard to help where they could. Alden was going to Alden was going to hardwire the generator into the main box, but Stella had talked him out of it. Instead, she was going to have Chuck do it. Their this Chuck is the one that is like helps him out on the farm. He is a certified electrician. Stella wanted it done right. Plus, she did not want Alden to burn down their house or get electrocuted. The problem was they had put it off too long, hence all the extension cords. If they had gotten it hardwired in, they would have been completely ready for the freakiest storm ever to hit these parts. Stella put the word out that she had an extra freezer. If anyone wanted to put their meat in there, she would put their names on their food to keep it from spoiling. The freezer was almost full now with various neighbors' food. Stella figured that you could always put your freezer food in a tote and toss it in a snowbank. That would work just as well. Stella also had neighbors coming over to shower. Alden had hooked up the plow to his work truck, put chains on the tires, and was doing his best to dig out all of Hardy Dam. Some of the neighbors are elderly. Those are the ones that Stella worried about the most. Alden kept their driveways cleared and their pathways. The boys jumped in and helped neighbors not only get to their wood piles, but they carried in enough wood to last them for days. AJ and Ben made daily runs on the snowmobiles to pick up supplies that people needed. They jumped on the snowmobiles, went up to the local store, and made deliveries. AJ walked up. Hey, Ma, I am worried about Mary and her family. Can I go check on them? Oh, my, yes. I tried to call them, but their phone line is down. Stella stopped him for a second. How are the pigs doing? They are quite a way out there. Do they have enough food? Is their water trough staying unfrozen with the heaters? AJ shook his head. They will be okay. Trucking water out to them is no fun, though. Stella hugged AJ. I am so proud of you all for the way you have jumped in. Remember, you are allowed to go sledding, too. That sledding hill out back is calling your name. AJ grinned. After the work, I plan on doing just that. But right now, I want to go check on Mary. AJ walked away. Stella did not think that AJ realized how telling that statement was. He wanted to go check on Mary. AJ is 14. He is a young man turning into a man, a very good looking man. Stella also noticed that although Mary started out as a flat chested tomboy, that had changed. Mary turned 14 right behind AJ, and she seemed to blossom overnight. Mary's hair had grown out long, beautiful strands of blonde curls, long, dark eyelashes that Stella would kill for. Her body had undergone a complete transformation. She may be 14, but she looked much more mature. She was still that sweet, polite girl, but now AJ saw her as a girl, not a tomboy. AJ showed up on the snowmobile with a passenger. Stella could tell it was Mary. They both headed into the house. They stomped their feet and unwrapped their winter gear. Everyone dressed in layers, looking a lot like mummies these days. Mary stepped inside. She seemed terribly upset. Hi, Stella. Is there any chance you could talk to my parents? Our generator failed. The house is freezing. Stella gasped. Oh my, what do you need? Mary finally decided to start calling her Stella instead of Miss Stella. Mom and Dad are trying to put up blankets so we can all bunk in the living room. We have a fireplace in that room, but it's just not working. We cannot stay there, but they are too proud to ask for help. Stella hugged Mary fiercely. Don't you worry, honey. We will figure this out, Stella said. Stella called Alden on the CB. Alden, you there? Alden came on the line. Breaker, breaker, sugar buns. Big stallion has his ears on. Over. Alden answered with a definite country twang. Stella's face started turning red. Grr, Stella thought. AJ and Mary laughed at Stella's red face. Listen up, phony pony. We have a situation here. What is your location? Over. Stella, we agreed on Sugar Buns and Big Stallion as our call names. Over. AJ and Mary choked with laughter. Stella gritted her teeth. Fine, Big Stallion. Gallop on back to the homestead. This is Sugar Buns, over and out. Stella hung up the CB. She glanced over to see AJ and Mary trying to hold it together. I did not choose Sugar Buns. Your father is certifiable. You two look cold. There is hot chocolate or coffee. Help yourself, Stella said. The teens must have thought twice about bringing up the CB fiasco. Instead, they headed for the hot beverages and snacks. Alden stomped his feet as he came in the door. He took off all his outside clothes, then made a beeline for the coffee pot. After he sat down, he took a few sips. Okay, I can focus now. What's the 10 for, Big Mama? Stella glared at Alden. She explained the situation. Alden gulped down his coffee and put his clothes back on. He turned to AJ. I am going to need you two to come and give me a hand. Stella stopped Alden. Well, what are you going to do? We have the old generator in the barn. It still works. I didn't hook it up because we have the new one, but we are going to go out to the barn and see if that bad boy is going to start. AJ spoke up. Couldn't we just let them stay here? AJ said with hope in his voice. Stella was not sure about those two being under the same roof for an extended period of time. Although, as far as Stella could see, AJ was the one noticing Mary. Mary was still seeing AJ in the friend zone. Alden said, They are more than welcome to stay, but we have to get heat in that house or all of their pipes are going to freeze and break. I've seen toilets crack in half. Not good. Let's go. Alden tweaked the generator. It was old, but he felt confident that it would work. Alden added gas, checked the oil, and hit the button. It started up like a dream. Alden shut it down, smiling from ear to ear. He leaned in and hugged the generator. Mary eyed Alden. Does he always get this emotional about machinery? Mary asked. AJ shook his head, still smiling. You have no idea, Mary. The man does love his tools. AJ leaned over and whispered in Mary's ear. Mom hides his tools a lot. Not so much if he is working out here, but if he tries to fix anything in the house, his tools go bye-bye. Mary snickered. Alden looked up. What is so funny? Come on, kids. We must get going. People are cold. We have to save the pipes. They loaded up the generator in the back of Alden's truck. Alden was able to get into their driveway after plowing it out for them. Will and Beth stood by the front door. They were all bundled up and their noses bright red. Alden and AJ stepped out of the truck. Will came out. He looked upset. Wait, what are you doing? Alden just grabbed Will's hand and shook it. I hear you have a generator issue. Let's go look at your generator, see if it is an easy fix. If not, we will hook this old girl up. Let's get you guys warm. Will looked lost and defeated. We moved here from the city. I never thought I would ever see this much snow. Alden reassured Will. This is not normal. In fact, this is very abnormal. Do not feel bad. This is not a good situation that any of us are in. Us White Cloud people do our best to help each other. Can you say that about where you used to live? Will shook his head no. Let's get this done. My poor wife is ready to pack up and move us all back. I really do not want to have to do that. AJ looked stressed about that. Alden checked out their generator. It was brand new, but it just would not fire up. Alden and AJ pulled the generator out of the truck. Between the three of them, they wrestled it into the garage. Soon they had everything up and running. Their heat was now blasting, and thankfully, none of their pipes had frozen. Mary and Sarah ran out and impulsively hugged Alden. Thank you so much, Mr. Alden. You saved us big time. The girls were so excited. AJ smiled. What about me? I saved you too. AJ held out his arms. Sarah ran over and hugged AJ. She was shy, but she liked the Westman family. Sarah peered up at AJ. Thank you, Alden James, for helping us get warm. AJ grinned. He wasn't sure why, but Sarah always referred to him as Alden James instead of AJ. He had to admit it was kind of cute. Mary blushed, but she stepped up and hugged AJ. Alden noticed that AJ held on to Mary a bit longer than he did Sarah. More than just a friend hug. Mary froze. She leaned back. She was not smiling. She looked up at AJ like she was seeing him for the first time. Mary started backing away. She got tears in her eyes. Confusion clouded her face. AJ could see that she was upset. Mary, wait. What is wrong? AJ cried. AJ started towards Mary, but Alden grabbed his arm and stopped him. Let her go, son. Mary fled without looking back. What is wrong with Mary? Sarah questioned. AJ looked confused and hurt. But Dad, Mary is so upset. What happened, Dad? Do you have any idea what made her act like that? Alden had a fairly good idea what had just happened, but he figured AJ was going to have to learn to talk things over with Mary. Alden had his hands full with his own woman. No way was he getting in the middle of AJ's love life. Come on, son. Your ma will be wondering about us, Alden said gruffly. Alden and AJ jumped in the truck and headed home. AJ was extremely quiet. Dad, I know that I gave you a hard time about not knowing anything about women, but I have to admit, I do not get women at all. What did I do wrong? AJ pleaded. You need to talk to Mary, Alden insisted. AJ looked disturbed at the idea. Episode 26, Puberty Sucks. AJ stormed around the house. Why won't she call me back? The phone lines are fixed. Everything is melting, Ma. More than likely, we all go back to school tomorrow. Stella felt bad for AJ. When he turned to her and asked her again, she could not keep quiet anymore. Mom, you are a woman. Can't you help me figure this out? I do not want to lose my best friend. Well, my best friend that is a girl. Alden was out. He went to check on his parents. Stella figured maybe it was a good idea to have a mother son talk. Sit, son. Stella motioned for him to stop pacing. Sit. AJ sat down. He had been looking gloomy for a week, not eating properly. He had dark circles under his eyes because he was not sleeping well. Let me ask you a question, AJ. When you hugged Mary, what did you feel? Be honest. Do not be embarrassed. Tell me. Stella pointed her finger at her son demandingly. AJ squirmed. His face turned red. Mom, AJ whined. You don't get to do that, AJ. Do you want my help? You and I can talk about anything. I've been through puberty. It sucks. Stella shivered just remembering her braces, pimples, and the curse. AJ saw pictures of his mother as a teen. She had bad acne, braces, not to mention she was extremely tall. No wonder all the kids in the family got their height early, what with two tall parents. AJ smiled. AJ glanced at his mom. I really like her, Mom. She was my friend before I noticed her like a girl. AJ looked embarrassed as he admitted that to his mother. It was like that with your dad and I. Stella smiled, remembering that day. AJ knew the story, how his dad got bonked in the head with a volleyball because he could not take his eyes off his best friend that he suddenly saw as a woman. So, that's all you felt? Like? Stella asked softly while sipping her coffee. Stella peered at her son over the rim of her cup. AJ hesitated. He shook his head, squirming a bit. No, I felt like I never wanted to let go of her. It felt so right holding her. You felt desire? AJ looked uncomfortable. Yes. AJ blushed and looked away. Stella lowered her voice. So, what do you think Mary felt? AJ looked stumped, then stunned. His eyes shot to his mother's face. You think that is why she acted so weird? She. You think she suddenly looked at me in a different way? AJ thought about the look on Mary's face, how she reacted. He remembered the second she stiffened in his arms. She was aware of him. AJ smiled from ear to ear. Stella nodded. Hold your horses, cowboy. You guys are way too young to even be thinking about getting involved. Plus, her parents would move her away so fast you would never see her again. You better keep your cool. AJ thought about Mary moving. He felt sick at the thought. Mom, I am 14. I really like her, but no way am I going to do something stupid. I am going to go back to school tomorrow and I am making her talk to me. We are still friends, best friends, and nothing is going to change that. If, when we are older, if we fall for each other, then maybe I'll marry her. Stella gasped at AJ. What? No, wait. What do you mean maybe you will marry her? What happened to friendship? Stella was stunned. AJ looked at his mother, his face so serious. Mom, I do not know what is going to happen when we are older, but I feel like Mary is my future. I am not ashamed to say that. I promise you that nothing is going to happen. Nothing. Stella felt a bit better, but she was going to watch those two like a hawk. Stella shook her head in disgust and amazement. What is it with you Westman men? You fall in love and that is it. Come on, baby, let's go get hitched. So what if we are just babies? I know what I want. I know what I know. I know what I won't, Stella mocked. AJ laughed at his mom's country drawl. My feelings could be love's first crush, but I do not think so. We shall see, Mom. Stella stopped AJ from walking away. It is a great big world out there, AJ. Lots to see and do. You should spread your wings and taste life. I understand what you are trying to say, but my heritage is here on this farm. This is the life I want. This farm is my future, my roots, and they go deep. Stella did believe that AJ was a natural born farmer. He loved the work. He helps his dad with the books and every aspect of the farm. He pushes to learn everything. AJ looked at his mom. He thought she was kind of cool. He turned back to her, smiling softly. Just so you know, Mom, you have always been my first love. You prove to me every day what love really means. Stella gasped. I love you too, son, she choked out. AJ ran upstairs to get everything ready for school the next day. He chose his outfit very carefully and packed his backpack. He hoped Mary would talk to him tomorrow. He already missed her. AJ was so tired. He had not slept well all week. He decided to lay down for a bit. Just for a bit. He slept through the night. Stella checked in on him. She covered him up. She leaned down and kissed her boy on the forehead. She wandered to the door. When she turned back, she didn't see this grown up version of AJ. Instead, she saw him as a child in his toddler bed. When I grow up, I'm going to marry you, Mama. Stella leaned down and spoke. Wow, the thing is, honey, I'm already married. I am married to your daddy. AJ thought long and hard about that. Then he got an idea. That is okay, Mama, because when I grow up, I'm going to marry someone that is just like you. AJ threw his arms around his mother. He held her tight like he never wanted to let her go. Stella smiled. Stella quietly closed the door. Episode 27. Back to School. With the storm passing, the children went back to school. Stella drove them to the end of the driveway so they did not have to hike through the snow or freeze their butts off. The bus arrived at the high school. AJ scanned the front area of the school. Mary's mom always drove the girls to school because Mary suffered from motion sickness. Sometimes Mary rode the bus, but AJ was not surprised that she did not ride today. He was sure she was still avoiding him. AJ and Mary AJ and Mary have almost all their classes together. AJ grinned at the thought. She could not avoid him forever. AJ settled into his seat, slouching back in his chair like he had not a care in the world. AJ watched the door. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Mary. She stopped in the doorway. She hesitated. Then she walked forward and sat in her assigned seat, right next to AJ. AJ thought Mary looked beautiful today. Mary's hair had gotten quite long. It curled down her back. Her eyes looked very green today. She had on a mint green top that set off her eyes. AJ caught her eye. Mary's eyes kept skittering away, but AJ's eyes stayed put, twinkling with mischief. Hey, Mary, are you planning on avoiding me for the rest of your life? AJ asked with laughter in his voice. Mary glared at AJ, then she looked crestfallen. No, I. Hi. That wasn't so hard, was it? AJ questioned. Mary growled at AJ. I said hi, she snapped. AJ leaned closer to Mary, forcing her to make eye contact. We are friends, Mary. Best friends. We should be able to talk about anything, AJ stated. Mary looked shocked, then embarrassed. I have been busy, AJ. I am not avoiding you. Yeah, right, AJ said. Other students started filing in. AJ lowered his voice. You are my friend, but lately I have noticed you in a different way, AJ said bravely. Mary seemed to be a constant shade of red. Her jaw dropped down. She seemed to be having difficulty forming words. Mary could not believe how bold AJ was being. Finally, she choked out, do you always just say what pops into your head? Have you no filter? AJ, can we please just drop this? Please, let this go. Mary's eyes pleaded with AJ, but he could not do that. Like I said, you will always be my best friend, but I also have feelings for you. What is so wrong in admitting that? Mary's eyes widened. She looked like she was trying to catch her breath. AJ put up his hand. AJ put his hand up to stop her from talking. I am just being straight with you. Someday, when you are ready, if you ask me nice, I might say yes to marrying you, AJ teased. Mary looked rageful. You are out of your mind, AJ Westman, Mary whispered angrily. Mary would have said more, but the fire alarm went off. Mr. Burke assured them it was a fire drill. He directed them to move in an orderly fashion, walk not run, meet out front in front of the school. Mary was happy to stand and leave the room. She wanted nothing more than to walk away from him. Why did he have to try to change things, she wondered. Why couldn't they just stay friends? Why did that hug change the way she looked at AJ? Mary made it to the parking lot. AJ stood next to her. She planned on giving him the silent treatment, but then she blew up. She turned on AJ like a tornado. Mary whispered fiercely, you listen to me, AJ Westman. You cannot tell me that you have feelings for me. We are 14. I have goals. Yes, you are my best friend. So what if maybe, and I am stressing maybe, when we hugged, I may have felt something, but you do not announce that someday you might want to marry me. For crying out loud, AJ, I have zero interest in getting married anytime soon. Maybe never. Mary looked defiant. AJ twinkled at Mary. He knew he was bugging her, but it was just too much fun to pass up. Sheesh, woman, don't be so pushy. I am still just a boy, no rush, you know. AJ acted like Mary was the pursuer. Mary gasped at AJ. What are you talking about? I just said I might never want to get married, Mary steamed. But you also said you felt something. AJ smirked, wiggling his eyebrows at her. Now Mary was hopping mad. Just because your parents have loved each other since preschool does not mean that that is the way this works. Who finds the love of their life at 14? AJ just smiled like he had all the time in the world. But you admit you feel something for me, right? AJ asked. You're about to feel my fist connecting with your smug face, Mary threatened. AJ did not look scared at all. AJ stuck out his hand. Friends forever? Mary glared at AJ's outstretched hand. His mood swings were giving her whiplash, but she finally placed her hand in his. Yes, friends forever, Mary mumbled. Mary was still so confused. Mary lowered her voice. They had attracted some attention from the other students. Mary chewed on her lips. She glanced at AJ. Let's say that, yes, when we hugged, I did feel something. It doesn't matter, AJ. AJ grinned. Mary did have feelings for him, and it was driving her crazy. AJ swooped in and hugged Mary. They were at the back of the line, so no one saw. He just hung on until she stopped struggling. Mary eased back. She looked up at AJ. Having him hold her like this did make her face the fact that she did have feelings for him. She was not sure that she wanted to like him this way. She so loved having him as her best friend. AJ leaned down and gently kissed Mary on the cheek. It was the sweetest kiss. Mary melted. Damn you, AJ Westman, Mary whispered. AJ threw back his head and laughed out loud. Such language from such a perfectly polite young lady. AJ stepped back. Everyone was heading back into the school. AJ would never rush Mary, but he would not lie to her about how he felt either. Only time would tell. AJ could not believe it when he felt Mary slip her hand into his. AJ looked at Mary. He was sure that his feelings were written all over his face, for Mary to see, for everyone to see. Mary smiled softly, squeezing his hand gently. Remember, AJ, friends first, maybe only friends. We shall see. AJ made a face at Mary. He tugged his hand out of hers. He placed his hand on his chest, acting all dramatic, while still smirking at her. Well, I just want you to know, I do not hold hands with Zach, and we are just friends. I don't want any misunderstandings here. I'm a man of my word, my friend. Mary laughed. She slapped him on the arm. Mary grabbed his hand again. I can hold hands with my friend, Mary exclaimed. AJ nodded his head. Okay, but only if you insist. AJ, you are such a smart jerk. AJ widened his eyes. You need to watch that mouth, girl, starting to swear like a professional. Mary rolled her eyes. She tugged her hand away from AJ. She walked through the school doors, feeling much better about her relationship with him. Mary glanced at AJ. She could not believe how handsome he was. Why had she never noticed that before? AJ was tall, at least 6 feet, his shoulders broad, probably from all the farm work that he does. Mary did not know if AJ was just teasing her about them eventually getting married. AJ had an odd sense of humor. AJ being a Westman, she had to admit that when those Westman men got an idea in their heads, it was hard to steer them off course. Mary knew that being 14, she was not going to worry about this anymore. They were only in the ninth grade. True, they had excuse me. True, they had friends that had already dated multiple people, and that seemed to be the norm. Mary did not want that kind of lifestyle. Mary was not lying when she said she had goals. Mary was going to college. She worked hard to keep her grades up. There were a few scholarships that she had her eye on. She was determined to have the best grades possible. No distractions. Glancing back at AJ, Mary knew that AJ was a distraction. She would keep this friendship firmly in place. She had no doubt about that. Episode 28. The Flu. I'm dying, Stella moaned. Alden stepped up and set some broth on the end table. Here you go, honey. Try and sip on this, Alden whispered. Stella made a face and rolled back over. She felt horrible. Take it away, Stella pleaded. She frantically rolled away from the dreaded broth. Alden wandered back out with the broth. He really felt that Stella should go to the doctor. She's being stubborn. Stella informed Alden earlier in the day, everyone has been fighting this flu. For whatever reason, my flu is just hanging on longer. I am just run down. I wasn't eating right. I think I just need to get back on my vitamins too. That night, Stella seemed to get worse. She was dizzy, nauseous, and she could not hold anything down. Alden spent the night helping her back and forth to the bathroom. He held her hair back. Finally, he grabbed a bucket and directed her to use it. He kept it emptied and clean. Eventually, they both fell asleep from sheer exhaustion. Alden woke up. Thank goodness it was Saturday. It was still early. The house was quiet and the kids were all still sleeping. While Stella has been sick, their right-hand man Chuck has been coming over in the mornings to take care of all the farm chores. Alden and the boys take care of the animals when the kids come home from school. Chuck agreed to keep working the AM shift until further notice. Chuck knew how sick Stella was. Chuck is such a good man. All decided to get up. He was still tired, but he was so used to getting up early that his body had its own internal clock. Alden got out of bed carefully so not to awaken Stella. She was finally sleeping peacefully. He wanted to let her sleep as much as possible. Alden walked and rubbed his eyes at the same time. He knew this house by heart, so when he tripped on something and almost fell, he was shocked. The sunlight streamed softly through the dining room windows, making it easy to see what he had tripped on. The vacuum? What in the world was it doing in the middle of the floor? Alden wondered. Alden was confused. He did a spin, taking in all the chaos that had invaded his dining room. Alden froze. What was forming in his mind could not be. Alden stepped forward. He took a closer look at the table. It was stacked with clean dishes, small plates and large plates, stacked in a haphazard way, tipping wildly. Alden restacked the plates. He noticed spices, oils, and pantry items littered the table also. A large bowl had flour, eggs, and a green, powdery substance. Alden took a whiff. Pistachio pudding? Under the table something was stacked, but it had a sheet over the top of it. Alden pulled on the sheet to see the dirty dishes that he had been too tired to wash last night. Alden's heart started slamming. He headed for the kitchen. All the cupboard doors were shut. Please don't be empty, he chanted. Please, please don't be empty. Alden opened the cupboard. Empty. Next one. Empty. On and on. All empty. Alden turned. He looked grimly at the refrigerator. He walked forward slowly. He opened the fridge. Clean, folded laundry stacked neatly, and in the freezer, clean underwear and socks, of course. Alden placed his hand on his chest. Maybe he was having a heart attack. He sucked in a breath. He felt ill. No, 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 Alden groaned. Alden fisted his hands into his hair. This cannot be happening. Not again. Alden made a pot of coffee. His hands shook uncontrollably. He picked up the phone and called Stella's sister Annie. Annie picked up on the third ring. Hello? Annie's voice was deep from sleep. Alden was finding it difficult to form words. Annie? Uh, this is Alden. Good grief, Alden, what time is it? Silence. Alden, are you there? Alden cleared his throat. Stella walked in her sleep last night. Sleep did stuff. Silence. A long silence. I'm on my way, Annie sighed. The phone went dead. Alden sat down. He quickly sucked down his first cup of coffee. He was on his third cup when Annie walked in. Annie held a brown paper bag tightly against her chest. Alden eyed that bag like it was full of snakes. Annie looked around. Her eyes missed nothing. Annie opened all the cupboards. So, where's all the food? Annie asked. Alden propped his hands on his forehead and groaned. I have not found it yet, except for what is on the table. Alden gestured at the various items. Alden lifted his head. Go look in the fridge, he whispered. Annie looked disturbed. She opened it and gasped. Then she opened the freezer. Well, of course the underwear and socks are in the freezer, Annie stated. Annie leaned down and opened the dishwasher. Well, I found some of the food, Alden. It is all stuffed in the dishwasher. The only problem is, she poured soap in here and turned it on. Annie smiled slightly. Well, at least you know that your food is nice and clean. Very funny, Annie. Annie sat down. She eyed Alden for a minute. Then she said, I thought you had a vasectomy. Alden's jaw dropped. His eyes bugged. I did. I swear, Annie, I did. Annie looked around at the chaos. My sister has only ever walked in her sleep and done this crazy stuff when she is pregnant. Obviously, she was pregnant. Alden flinched both times when she said the P word. Alden shook his head. There has to be another explanation. Alden looked wild-eyed. Annie thought about that, but then she said, let's look at this logically. She sleep moves things around only during pregnancy. I hate to tell you, but I think your wife is pregnant. Alden shook his head. No, not possible. Vasectomy man over here, Alden stated, while pointing at himself with both upturned thumbs. Annie considered Alden's statement, then she tilted her head and asked, okay, vasectomy man, you did go to the follow-up appointment, right, to make sure you had 0 swimmers? Alden froze. He started to talk. He hesitated. Alden's eyes bugged. He started sweating and grabbing at his chest again, trying to suck in air. He made weird wheezing noises, his mouth wide open like a codfish. I can't breathe. Help me, Alden gasped. I think I'm dying, gasped. Alden was sweating profusely and shaking uncontrollably. Annie stood up and leaned towards Alden. You're hyperventilating. Oh, for crying out loud, Alden, you're hysterical. Get a grip, man. Annie stepped closer to Alden and slapped him hard across the face. Really hard. Annie left a large red handprint on Alden's cheek. Annie had to admit she had always wanted to do that. She snickered. Alden whimpered, but was still gasping like a beached whale. Annie brought up her left hand this time and slapped him hard on the other cheek. Another red handprint appeared. When she went to hit him again, he grabbed her hand. I'm good. I feel better. Alden leaned as far away from Annie as possible. He was still gasping, but instead of a nice green color, he was as white as a sheet. Are you sure, Alden? I could do this all day, Annie grinned. Alden made a face at Annie, but he was breathing better. Answer my question, Alden. Did you go to that particularly important follow-up appointment to make very sure that you have no baby-making swimmers running around in there? While Annie asked her question, she had taken 4 pregnancy tests out of the paper bag, setting them side by side on the table. Alden moved one chair down away from Annie. He did not want to be slapped anymore. Alden started to answer, but held up a finger as if to say, give me a second. Then he started stuttering. I, well, you see, it's like this. I meant to go. You meant to go? What do you mean you meant to go? Annie whispered angrily. Still, Alden tried to explain. I was on the road all the time, Annie, doing sales. I kept meaning to reschedule as time went by. It didn't seem so important. For crying out loud, Annie, Francine is 6 years old. We haven't used birth control at all. I figured the surgery was a success. Annie laughed aggressively. Oh, yes, Alden. Obviously so successful. Sarcasm does not look good on you, Annie. Alden's chin thrust out aggressively. Annie looked at her brother-in-law like he was the stupidest person on the planet. Alden, you must tell her. Alden sighed. What do I do, Annie? Stella is going to kill me, Alden cried. Alden looked defeated. He threw up his hands. Just start digging my grave now. It was nice knowing you, Annie. Alden sighed. Then he started moaning and rocking back and forth. Keep it up, Alden. I promise you, I will slap you some more. This is not helping the situation. Alden nodded. You are right. Okay, I'm going to go in there and just tell her straight out, like ripping off a band-aid, and I'll tell her that she does not have the flu. Neither one of them realized that Stella was standing just outside the dining room. What do you mean I don't have the flu? Stella asked. They both turned towards Stella. Annie quickly sat back down. Neither of them moved or said a word. Stella advanced into the dining room. Stella looked around. She noticed the dishes on the table. She saw dirty dishes stacked under the table. Stella's eyes rounded. She dashed into the kitchen. She began opening cupboards. Every cupboard that she opened was followed by a heartfelt, no, this cannot be, Stella raged. Stella opened the refrigerator and cried, ugly crying, not some soft whimper. Annie spoke up. You might want to check out the dishwasher, Stella, Anna said softly. Alden glared at Annie. Annie shrugged. Stella opened the dishwasher. She stepped out of the kitchen holding a box of oatmeal. It was a big blob, plopping out of her hand onto the floor. Stella walked towards the table. She gave the oatmeal a vicious fling. Tears streamed steadily down her face. Stella spotted the 4 pregnancy tests. With a look of pure rage, she scooped them up, storming off into the half bath just off the dining room. Alden and Annie sat quietly, listening for any signs of Stella. Annie poured Alden and herself a cup of coffee. They drank it quietly. Finally, they heard loud sobbing. Then they heard slamming. Stella never swears, but she has her own version of cuss words. Words that really do not go together, but for some reason, they help Stella vent. Candy crapper, noodle doo-doo, fudge farkle. Alden jumped with the sound of every word that Stella let fly. Then her swear words seemed to include Alden, sissy boy, gas monster. The last Stella swear-like word was more like a sentence. Eat nasty, smelly codfish and die. Then it got quiet. Stella came out of the bathroom, carrying the 4 pregnancy sticks. Stella stopped by Alden's chair. He glanced up nervously and spoke. I love you, he said hopefully. Stella said nothing. She placed the first pregnancy stick on the table directly in front of Alden. Alden leaned in. He saw 2 straight lines. He giggled nervously. Pretty? Alden gasped. Annie's jaw dropped. Are you for real, Alden? Annie choked out. Still, Stella said nothing. She placed the second pregnancy stick down. This one was solid blue. Sweat glistened on Alden's forehead. My favorite color? Alden slapped his hand over his own mouth. Annie's mouth hung open, watching Alden literally train wreck all over the place. Alden pleaded, Annie, I don't know how to make it stop. Help me make it stop. Slap me some more. Stella set down the third pregnancy stick, a plus sign. Alden glanced up at Stella and whispered, Math? My favorite subject? Alden was a sweaty, pasty white mess. Stella's eyes narrowed. She placed down the 4th and final stick. The word pregnant screamed out at them. Alden said nothing. Stella sneered at Alden. Stella whispered fiercely, Just go ahead. You are dying to say something. I can see you squirming to set it free. The look on Stella's face was eerily similar to the day he had gotten a wine bottle to the forehead. Alden shot up and away from Stella and the various tests. Honey, I cannot be held totally responsible for those tests. It takes 2 to make a baby. Plus, we went all these years without this happening. What are the odds? Alden held up his hands to calm the women down. They both looked like they were going to jump him. Alden talked faster. Maybe, just maybe, we need to look at this as a miracle, meant to be sort of thing. Annie put herself between Stella and Alden. Annie threw out her arms, putting all her weight into stopping Stella. Alden's body seemed to slump. He was all out of ideas. He felt tired and old. Wait, let me finish. I messed up. You are right. I should have gone back to the doctor for that final checkup. Stella's eyes bugged. She had not heard that part of their conversation. Stella vibrated with anger. What? Do you mean you never went back to the doctor? You mean you never kept your final appointment for your vasectomy? Are you freaking kidding me? Alden sat back down, defeat written all over his face. He waved his arms at himself and spoke. Let her go, Annie. I deserve it. Lay it on me. I have no defense against my actions whatsoever. Alden bowed his head, misery written all over him. Stella, seeing the look on Alden's face, reminded her how incredibly awful she felt. Stella sighed. She felt all the fight in her collapse. She was so exhausted. She did not want to throw up again. Stella sat down in defeat. She dropped her head straight onto Alden's chest. Alden stiffened up at first, but he quickly jumped on board. Stella was not murdering him, so he put his arms around her and hugged her close. Stella cried quietly, tears running down her face. Alden felt her shaking. His eyes misted over in sympathy for his wife. He knew he had messed up so badly. Alden raised Stella's face so he could look into her eyes. I am so sorry. Believe me when I say everything is going to be okay. I am here, and I am not going anywhere. Annie caught Alden's eye. She waved and laughed. She knew these two had to have some time together. So, we are really going to do this again? Stella asked, looking tired and unsure. Alden shook his head yes. It appears that way. I'm going to call the clinic where I had that vasectomy done and get that taken care of right away. I promise you that. He looked sheepish as he made that statement. Stella smiled slightly. Then she laughed out loud. You didn't do so good with the first vasectomy. I cannot wait to see the do-over. Alden's jaw dropped. What do you mean? You mean I have to have another vasectomy? Stella arched an eyebrow. She had to admit that she was finding some pleasure in Alden's freak out. How do you think they fix it? How do you think they fix the problem? Alden looked horrified. Aw, man, Alden moaned. Stella grinned. Look at it this way. Imagine pushing an apple out of your penis by comparison to me pushing out a watermelon 7 times. Alden closed his legs, looking shook up. He even placed his hands over his man part. Stella nodded her head. Welcome to my world, honey. Alden thought about the different births of his children. Surprisingly, he had been home for each and every birth. He was still in awe of his wife and what the human body went through to bring life into this world. Alden thought about the fact that their eldest boy was going to be 15 when this child was born, and boggled his mind. Alden stood up. Alden took up Stella's hands again. I will be standing there, screaming at the doctor to give you all the drugs you need, maybe something for me too. Stella laughed. I think when we had Francine, I got my point across pretty good. Dr. Wills said he was sure he was not going to get his hearing back for at least a week. Francine came so fast that the doctor would not give me any drugs. Stella looked very disturbed at that memory. Then footsteps could be heard above stairs. Stella and Alden realized the kids were awake. They were going to have to let the kids in on their news. All the kids tumbled down the stairs, arguing about which kind of cereal they wanted. Francine turned the corner first, rubbing her eyes and dragging the biggest teddy bear that she owned. Francine stopped when she saw the mess. The kids all had to stop abruptly, trying not to plow into Franny. AJ threw his arms out to stop his siblings from knocking her over. Franny, you have to step forward, sis, AJ instructed. Franny pointed at the dining room. All eyes turned to see what had gotten Franny's attention. AJ scanned the room. He was shocked. Ben whistled. It was long and loud. Wowza! What's going on here? He asked. AJ knew immediately what was happening. Alden had informed AJ the last time this had happened and what it meant. AJ sat down next to his mother, taking her hand in his. You are pregnant, Mom? AJ asked, sounding stunned. All the kids started talking at once. How did that happen? The twins said in unison. Alden flushed. Stella did not want to answer that question. No way was she up to that conversation. Franny walked up to her mother and wanted to be picked up. She handed Mr. Teddy to her father to hold. Franny looked from her mom to her dad. You are going to have a baby? Franny grinned from ear to ear. Franny started cheering. Finally! I get a baby sister! Alden and Stella grimaced. Elijah spoke up. Franny, we won't know whether it is a boy or a girl until it is born. Well, that is, unless Mom gets an ultrasound. Then we might know. Otherwise, we must wait. Franny scowled. She jumped down, placing her curled up fists onto her hips. I do not want another brother. I already have 5. I am the only girl. No way. You all better make sure I get a girl baby, Franny growled. Stella looked frazzled. Alden stood up. I am making breakfast. Does anything sound good at all, honey? Stella thought about that for a minute. I am feeling a bit better today. You know what sounds crazy? But I really want pancakes. Alden directed the kids to help get the house back in order. He had to do a search to find the pancake mix. Of course, it was in the dishwasher, nicely cleaned and soggy. Alden called his mom on the sly, told her the problem and the good news. He hardly got the words out of his mouth, and his mother was already screeching with happiness. My pregnant daughter in law wants pancakes. She gets pancakes. Homemade, not that box stuff. I'm on my way. Nettie and Celie showed up. Nettie hugged Stella fiercely. Nettie brought all the ingredients to make homemade buttermilk pancakes. Stella forgave Alden for outing her so soon about her pregnancy. Nettie makes the best homemade pancakes with real buttermilk. Celie eyed Alden. Please, please, Dad, do not give me a hard time about this. Yes, I am stupid. I should have gone back to the doctor. It is all my fault, Alden vented. Celie smiled. It was an evil smile. Oh, I knew as soon as I heard the good news that you messed up. I do love my grandbabies. If Stella has not killed you or maimed you, then I am on board with being a pop again. Alden looked relieved. However, don't you think you should already be on the phone to your doctor to get this going? You do not want to mess this up again. I do not think Stella will forgive you if she ends up with more babies after this. Alden rolled his eyes and reached for the phone. He remembered it was Saturday and set the phone back down. I'm going to have to call on Monday, Alden announced. Natalie waved the spatula at her son. I love being a grandma, but enough is enough. Get it done, son, Natalie demanded. Nettie turned back to the stove, eyeing the pancakes before she flipped them. Nettie stepped back into the dining room. I must admit that I am so excited that I am going to be a grandma again. Last time, right? Nettie questioned. Her eyebrows were raised as she peered down her nose at Alden. Alden flushed. Celie cackled. The twins made crying baby sounds. Stella wanted to go back to bed. Everyone pigged out. Annie showed back up with Tom and the kids just in time for pancakes. Annie could not stay away. She had to make sure her big sister was okay. Annie hugged Stella. You okay, hon? I was worried about you, not to mention Alden. Everyone laughed. Tom shook his head. Alden, you must like to live on the edge, man. Better you than me, Tom said with relief. Alden acted all big and bad now. He tilted his chair back with his arms above his head. He locked his hands behind his head. Yep, me and my super sperm will not be held back. Stella scolded Alden, but thank goodness all the kids wandered off to watch cartoons, except for Franny. She was now perched on Pop's lap while Grandma Nettie stood at the stove flipping flapjacks. Franny did not hear what her dad said. She kept looking at her grandma with a sad face. Alden looked over at Franny and asked, What are you looking so sad for, baby girl? Alden questioned. Franny did not say anything. Her lip trembled. She looked like she was struggling to hold herself together, but she was failing. Suddenly, Francine started wailing long sobs that made it impossible for her to talk. Alden looked alarmed. He jumped up, reached over, and picked up Francine. Alden held her close, rubbing her back, trying his best to soothe her. He did not even bother to ask her what was wrong until he knew she could answer. Franny's sobs lessened. She wiped her tears away. Nettie reached for Franny. Nettie sat down, peering into Franny's face. What's wrong, honey bun? Tell Grandma all about it. Big, tear-washed blue eyes looked up at Nettie. I don't, I don't like it when you don't sit with us. You are standing and working, and we are all eating. Franny started crying again. Everyone stared at each other in shock. They all melted. What a heart this little girl has. Celie smiled. What a sweetie pie. She's sitting over here worried about her grandma cooking for all of us. What a doll. Grandma Nettie hugged Franny. When Franny was done with her second round of weeping, Nettie slid Franny's hair behind her ear, kissed her on the cheek, and said, You know what, honey? I love standing there making pancakes and cooking for our family. It makes me feel good to know that everyone is full and happy. Franny smiled slightly. Really, Grandma? You are not sad doing all that work? Franny whispered. Nettie shook her head no. I tell you what, I have some batter left over. Would you like to come in the kitchen and I will teach you how to cook pancakes? Did you know there is a very special moment when you flip the pancakes? It's a secret. I'm going to teach it to you. But remember, you only cook pancakes with your parents. You never, never turn on the stove by yourself. Deal? Franny nodded. The stove can be dangerous, Grandma. Mama told me that. Francine sat Mr. Teddy on a chair. He looked like he was ready to eat his share of pancakes. Francine followed her grandma eagerly to learn this new secret. Tom spoke up. Secret? What does she mean by secret? What is the secret, Nettie? Tom wandered into the kitchen to find out. Annie laughed. That man learns how to make pancakes. That is going to be his new job. Alden sat close to his wife. He put his arm around her. He looked down at her. How are you feeling, honey? You able to hold your food down? Stella smiled. First time in forever. That food actually stayed down and tasted so good. Nettie yelled from the kitchen, The miracle of my cooking, my magic pancakes. They all agreed. All right, everybody. It was a little bit of a longer reading, but we got to see Alden got in big trouble because he didn't keep that very special final appointment. So the next episode is episode 29, and it's called Doctor Doctor. So Stella and Alden both go to their doctors separately. Well, you'll see. Have a great day.